Design Leader Insights is brought to you by Fuego UX. Fuego UX is a leading UX research, strategy, and design consultancy. Hey, Abby, thanks so much for joining the show today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me so much. And Alex, it's been funny. I know we were just chatting. We've been chatting for a while, and it's finally a chance for us to catch up and share a little bit. So grateful to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much. And to get started, can you give the audience a bit of context on kind of your recent journey in design?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, folks, my name is Abbey Smalley. So I'm a product design leader. It's hard to look back, but I've been in this field for about 20 years. And what first attracted me to the field and what has kind of guided my journey from then is I love the concept of art and design meets psychology. And I have found myself in spaces that are more complex ecosystems. I love thinking about systems and frankly, just simplifying things. And so I found myself in healthcare and retail, working on enterprise type systems. Really love leading teams and helping them be more effective together and delivering for customers. So that's a little bit about myself. My previous role, I was formerly at Amazon as a design leader on a data analytics platform.
Nice. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for that context. I think one of the things that we were chatting about that I think is super important is designers today are really wearing a ton of hats and also working with a ton of teams, be it marketing, research, product development. I think one of the things that I'd love to dive into with you is how teams can effectively work better together cross-functionally.
So yeah, I do have a couple tips on how to be effective. And some of this is basically around some of the themes I've seen on the most effective collaborative cross-functional teams. So the first one that I'd bring up that I see a lot is just honestly having a basic core understanding of and respect, candidly, of everybody's purpose and roles. An example that I would give you is like, yes, of course, we're working together, we're trying to be kind, but sometimes, for example, I've come into spaces where a product owner may have only worked with someone, say, that has like a graphic design background in previously. So they don't understand that product design and UX is really something that's very data-driven, outcome-driven as well, not just like something gets thrown over a fence and like, just make this thing. This shouldn't take much thought, right? Because I'm telling you exactly what we need. So on the other hand, it's also our role and all of our cross-functional partner roles to help educate each other. Like, actually, here's why that might be difficult, or here's why that won't actually deliver the outcome we're looking for together. So folks need to be open to learning more about what roles we have to play individually and together, and respectful enough to understand that they might need to learn more so we can be truly effective team members together. I think one other thing that's really important here is there are many moments in product building, and you had alluded to this in the very beginning, where we have to work very closely together and candidly very collaboratively. And so the best teams I've seen be effective, we all have certain roles and things that we do, like think of a Venn diagram in our circles, but really there's always this gray space that gets made in between. On when we collaboratively work together, it isn't just mine or yours. And the most effective teams I've seen, they lean into that gray space versus being scared or even offended, if you will, that we're stepping on toes. So for example, I've been in a situation where a product owner actually had a background in research. I absolutely want to make sure we're making that person space to be involved in user criteria for testing or talking to users. That isn't just something that should be owned by the design team. And on the other side, product owners to leave space for designers to contribute to product vision, not own it. There's still lanes that we need to be in to own to really say like who needs to make some final calls, but contribute to that vision based on some of the data or understanding on our users they have. So really making space to say we need to lean into that gray space and not be offended by it is pretty critical for success. Another one I think that's really interesting is, and I've learned this one, I think the hard way while being a people leader too, and working with cross-functional teams of partners and understanding. It took me a while to understand this, but the tip I have is making sure that cross-functional teams not only have aligned and prioritized goals that are mainly outcome-based, and we've used that word a lot, maybe it's a trigger word for folks, that means not just getting something out the door, right? But actually achieving a certain goal. But that's actually also how they're measured at the end of the year. It's human nature to perform towards what we're measured on at the end of the day.
Yes.
So not only have shared aligned goals, but actually be measured on them for your performance at the end is super critical.
I'd love to hear your advice because I feel like those goals can like arbitrarily come down from like C-suite or like CPO or CTO, like, yeah, how do you inform that if that's one that teams need to evolve on?
Yes, all of our teams, and I can just say this with a blanket, can get better at measuring what matters and
Yeah.
asking questions if they don't know. If they don't know how they should be performing and what they're effectively being measured on, they should ask. And if there's a gap there, they should recommend something. And they should
Mm.
ask their cross-functional peers, like, how are you measured at the end of the year? Maybe it's worth having that conversation.
Yeah.
And I hope we have a healthy moment that they can ask those questions with good curiosity with their leader. If they don't have that, start asking some of those prompts. And when you are creating your work or working on outcomes or workflows yourself, like go ahead and say, like, my purpose of this was to do X. Like, I understand we're trying to hit this measurement. That's why I made this decision.
That's super practical. And I love that. Just it's communication.
Another one that I think is really important is having just enough process. I find that a lot of teams think that process is a very dirty, bad word. I'm here to tell you that I am a process fanatic, but that doesn't mean a lot of process. It's just enough process. And here's some reasons why I think process is important in a lightweight way. One is it ensures quality. This could be around something that a workflow that actually achieves a goal and some of the acceptance criteria, or could also be about making sure you're implementing a design system consistently so that you're really supporting not only efficiency, but consistency for your users. Um, this is also about making sure you're bringing the right fidelity of your designs at the right time. For example, I've been on teams that cross-functional partners like product and UI art and development won't look at something until it's like high fidelity polish with visuals and color. But then they're making comments about, is that the right blue? Versus like, oh, I can see how a user is moving through this workflow. I can
Right.
see how this is solving their problem. And so a lot of designers will then take all this extra time up front to make something look polished when it shouldn't be polished yet. This is a concept. People should be able and feel comfortable giving input because this doesn't feel like it's just about to go out the door.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're getting the right visibility and approvals at the right time. For example, I've seen teams where development might not see something to the very end, but then at the very end, when you're like, okay, time to build it, there's feasibility issues. And if they had just seen something, maybe even in sketch type form, they could say like, how are we going to do this? Like, we don't have that capability, or like that doesn't fit this timeline. They can give suggestions so that we don't have to go all the way around the wheel and say, oh, go back, that didn't work. So enough process to make sure there's the right visibility at the right time, at the right fidelity, makes things go a lot smoother. So there's less iteration that needs to be done. There needs to be shared alignment with the cross-functional team on where the team needs to be fast and iterative and willing to launch and learn versus where they should really be more risk averse. Align on where you should go fast and align where you need to have a little bit more time to get some quant and qual and more solid input. I see a lot of teams get frustrated by not aligning on these things on both sides. I've worked with some designers that want to test everything to the nth degree, but we are slow as hell. Or they don't want to test anything. And the reality is if you can align on like, you're right, these things, like we should move iteratively fast through phases, and it's okay to be wrong. And these are things that we know need to take a little more time. You're going to have a lot less frustrations on timeline or where something is, or why do you need so much time to do X?
I think that's genius. Yeah. I think once again, it comes down to communicating across the teams, which is the core issue of a lot of these. Yeah, it's like, hey, here's when we're going to go fast. Here's when we should both slow down because this is what the users, if we change this, it's going to be detrimental or something like that. And I don't know if these conversations are always had. It reminds me of design maturity framework,
Yeah.
which doesn't necessarily talk to the fact that there's an organizational maturity framework and it goes beyond design, right? Like it does touch on that, but yeah, having these conversations are essential to grow in design maturity. Let's switch gears here to advice you have for new designers that are entering the field today.
I know that I can't inform a lot of people's new paths in because my pathway in was one a time where people didn't really know what UX was. And so
Right.
the path in today is very different. But what I think will be very effective and helpful for designers say that they're either entering this field or looking to up-level their career is not just think about yourself as a designer. You are a business owner and a right. You are thinking about the whole business problem. You are thinking about how you're achieving goals for users to make them satisfied, but also create outcomes for the business. So you can be alive again tomorrow to create more great things for your users because the business is also thriving. So if you can put on the hat of, I'm not just a designer and I work with these people that are different than me, you're all business owners together. You own a different slice of that pie with your skill set, your design and psychology and research, and all these things skill set. But that's complementing it. And the more you can think of your career and your role as a holistic business acumen, the more successful you'll be because you'll know when to apply the right design aspect.
So true, especially during these times. Like, I think that is eternally relevant advice, especially in a time like now, in a market like now. So thanks so much, Abby, for joining the show today and sharing all these insights.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.